Hi, Peter. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Peter.
Good morning.
Hi, Philip.
Hey,
Good
Philip.
morning.
Is it pronounced Gopinath?
Yes, you are right. It's Gopinath Jaybalan. Yes, you are right. Okay. Nice to meet you,
Cool.
both of you.
Yeah, good to meet you.
Um, So, okay, I'll quickly start myself. I'm working for a client called CSE Global, and I'm primarily supporting as a HashiCorp Vault engineer. So we take care of Vault production servers, including DR support, everything. And currently we are focusing, I myself as a primary responsible, I'm focusing on bringing a policy as a code into a product. So across all the products, like not only HashiCorp Vault, we also have a tool called OpenShift clusters. We have OpenShift clusters and Jenkins, and we have a Argo CD, few other correlated tools we have. But as of now, the focus is one is for HashiCorp Vault. So right now, we got a suggestion from one of the OPA team member. It's you need to use a Sentinel. And the next focus is not the next focus. Parallelly, we have also started focusing on Kubernetes OpenShift clusters. So for OpenShift cluster, right now we started using a Gatekeeper. Using Gatekeeper, we just triggered few policies like for label constraint and registry constraint and resource limit constraint. I think 3 to 4 only we started with. But there are many, and I also reached Styra. From Styra, there is a person called Geoff. I just reached them to take some support because we are going to start with OPA slowly, and we are going with the planning for an enterprises version to get a support and all the other features to be added. So I saw best features. We might also definitely add in the future, but not right now. So I have a team member called Alvin. Actually not a team member. He's my stakeholder. He's my boss. Alvin Sandel, he not joined today. So I just kickstarted this meeting initially. So later on, I will bring him also. So once we have a more progress and once we show some more output, so I can bring him also. So and then we can discuss to further level. So is that the support is only focused on open source? I just want to know, is that also the enterprises version is also take care of it here? That's a
to clarify, are you asking, do we do Styra related support in this call?
No. It's a OPA.
Just OPA? Okay.
OPA, yeah.
Yeah, if you're asking just open source OPA questions, awesome.
Okay.
So I guess what were the two or you said, how many questions did you say you had again?
Yeah, so one is the HashiCorp Vault.
Okay, that
For
I caught.
HashiCorp.
Yeah. I think was the answer in the GitHub discussion thread sufficient for you, or did you need more clarification? I personally have not worked with HashiCorp Vault, so I can't give you a ton of advice there.
Okay, yeah. So we actually took that suggestion and we started with Sentinel policy, and
Okay.
we planning to once we have the dashboard from the OPA, then we planning to move all those result and decision making to OPA. So that's a plan B what we have right now. And yeah, the second parallel focus is with the OpenShift. So as like Kubernetes cluster, so we have an OpenShift environment. And as I highlighted, like we started with the Gatekeeper. Is it the right one which we are going with, Gatekeeper, or we just want to stick with the administration control? Is it something?
Yeah, if you're just looking for an open source solution, and for admission control, like Gatekeeper is a good place to start there, so that you can kind of see how to write some policies in Rego and then but use them as a CRD. So it's a good starting place in the open source ecosystem for admission control.
Okay. Okay. Let me bring. Sorry for this. Okay, actually from OPA, what I've seen is like for the gatekeeper, there are this list. I'll share it in the reason why I'm having a lot of basic question. I just started from weeks before this completely, and we have to aggressively achieve something in Q1. So this is the one which I'm referring currently. So is this covers all the CSI benchmark policy related everything? Does it covers everything? Just
Sorry, what's your question? You're saying like if it covers CSI?
yeah, there is something CSI benchmark which I was referring to for all the to bring the compliance related things, CSI benchmark compliance. So the link which I shared, it has a general and broad security policies. So these two, does it cover all from CSI benchmark, or is it something outside of this? I want to look into it.
Sorry, I don't know what CSI is.
Okay, I'll bring it here. This I'll put it here. CIS, I think I'm pronouncing wrongly. CIS benchmark.
Oh, CIS benchmarks, okay. And so you're curious if the examples in the GitHub documentation fully cover the CIS benchmarks?
Yes.
I don't have extensive knowledge of the CIS benchmarks. Do you have a list of requirements you're looking at inside of those benchmarks, or you just want to know if there's a full like one-to-one mapping? Because that would be something that like I haven't seen the community release anything that would show a comparison like that. It would be very interesting if you're going to do the work, like to share with the community, right? If you're going through all those benchmarks already, to show us like these are the ones that we found existed, and these are the ones that we had to create. But as far as I know, the community has not released anything that would expose that information.
Okay, got it. Fine. And okay, one more last question which I have in my list. Is there a specific to OpenShift which I need to do any tune-ups or fine tune, like otherwise the same thing which will work for OpenShift also? So completely.
OpenShift, I think, has their own flavor of gatekeeper. Let me see here. OpenShift gatekeeper, right? So I think they do it a little bit different. Let me see here.
Okay, I will give you one example why I have this question. For HashiCorp Vault, Red Hat has given a separate image for HashiCorp Vault for OpenShift. If I want to do anything with OpenShift, it's something called UPI image extension. It's along with this, specific to OpenShift. That's the reason I brought this question. So is that anything I need to tune up for specific to OpenShift?
So you're asking if you want to use the HashiCorp Vault UPI integration, how that connects to Gatekeeper? Is that the question?
No, sorry. No. So what I'm asked to ask is, so if I deploy this Gatekeeper in OpenShift, anything I want to be more cautious about, like apart from, because this is meant to Kubernetes, right? If I deploy this in OpenShift, so anything which I need to be specifically want to add additional permissions, example, is there anything which I need to aware of?
Well, I mean, so OpenShift, I think they like they also contribute to the Gatekeeper project and they pull stuff down. I'm actually looking at the OpenShift Gatekeeper library or the repo right now, and it looks like they haven't committed to it in like 2 years, which is interesting. So I wonder if they're phasing out support in favor of their like, they might have a homegrown solution at this point. OpenShift Gatekeeper. Yeah, like this thing looks like it's 2 years old at this point. So I wonder if Gatekeeper is doing, or OpenShift is doing something more specific. Yeah, that's pretty old. check the OpenShift docs. Gatekeeper. Documentation. Yeah, I don't see any specific mentions of Gatekeeper. I think they call it something else in OpenShift. What is the name of it? OpenShift Keeper. Yeah, they removed all mentions of Gatekeeper from their docs. So I think they are running Gatekeeper behind their admission controller. But what do they call it? It might just be in like their admission plugins. Yeah, I'm not sure what the OpenShift specific stuff is. I do know that the Red Hat guys that contribute to Gatekeeper always attend the Gatekeeper meetings. So you might wanna check out the Gatekeeper meeting and ask them directly.
Okay. Okay. For it. Okay. One more general question I have, Peter, like say if I have a gatekeeper, okay, which is running in OpenShift, and I also want to have a policy as a code for other ecosystems like CI/CD tools like Jenkins, and we have other tools like this is my stakeholders start process, like they also want to bring this for other ecosystems also. So I've seen if I deploy this gatekeeper in OpenShift or some environment, Kubernetes clusters, and if I deploy OPA server outside, will I able to make a sync between both of it? Is it something? How do we basically handle that? Like if we have a two different environment.
What are you trying to sync? Are you trying to sync the policies, or are you trying to just route like a centralized place that all the decision gets made? Like, what do you mean by sync?
Yes. So basically, I'm looking for some centralized place where I can use it as a kind of a federation mode, or at least. So if I choose Azure, for example, and I will get only Azure related policies and decisions over there. And if I choose Gatekeeper, then I will get a OpenShift related policies and decisions like this. Is it possible to handle it in that way, or I need to have a two different repos? Because right now for OpenShift we have a separate OpenShift and Gatekeeper, we have a separate repo, and next we are going to plan for Azure environment. So for that I have to create a separate Git repo, right? Everything to be separately I need to handle, right?
For Gatekeeper specifically, because the Rego policies are converted into CRDs, they're handled a little differently. So it would probably be easier to keep your Gatekeeper CRDs in one repository, right? Unless you wanted to use like kube management or something where you can use vanilla Rego, and then you could have like one repo with all of your policies, and then you can pull from that. But that then would require you to write your policies in a way that are not using Gatekeeper, right? Like you would have to just write your policies to just do like use like our kube management tool or something where you can use vanilla Rego and not convert it to a CRD, right? So it kind of depends on your your deployment choices, how you are looking at policy management, right? So if you want to do the CRD gatekeeper way, it would probably be easier to separate. If you want to try express all your policies as plain Rego, then you maybe then you could do something more like a mono repo that holds all your policies and then distribute them out to your OPAs.
Okay. Okay. I get a high level view, but definitely once I implement only, I'll get more hands. Okay.
Okay, cool. All right, thanks for the question. All right, Patrice, thanks for your patience. You want to go next?
Okay, just introduce myself a little bit. In fact, I'm student, but I'm quite old, but cool. I'm still student. In fact, I
never
work
too late to learn. Yeah.
I work on a company, and I change my work. I work a while in the system management in Unix, and I moved to a security team. And as I change my job, I had a new training, and in this training, I have a sort of report to make about a subject, and I choose to work with OPA. And I try to get information. It will be useful for my report, for my the end of my training. But it could be also useful for my entity, for the security entity where I work. And so I'm really at the beginning. In fact, I start 1 week ago, and I already get many information about OPA, on how it works. There is a very good video on YouTube. I don't remember the name of the guy. He got a barb too, and he's very efficient in the presentation with many examples and all that stuff. So I think I have a clear view of what we can do and how we can do it. The question is, I work in a big company, and we have many items, many users, many machines, many apps. And it's important for us, in case, for example, of a security audit, or even in an incident, to be able to print or to give to the auditor the permissions that, for example, one specific user, as I said in my introduction on this meeting, or for example, in case of password corruption, if we knew that someone has been the password has flee and someone gets the credential of one guy, we need to know everywhere that can be touched on the organization, which app with these specific credentials the attackants can add access. So I want to know if with OPA, I see clearly that OPA is something that you put next to your application, and you may have several OPA dispatch on your organization. But I would like to know if there is some way to centralize all that Rego definition to be able on one site to have all the information we wanted, in fact. So I checked the DASA, the product that
DAS, yeah.
DAS.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I didn't get all along the DAS, but it will maybe the way to centralize, or to have something to deploy and to report on, to have such information. But this is my question. I do not have really use case, but it's just as an information, because on my company when I will advance on the process of reporting to suggest to use OPA, they will ask me this question. So this is something that I will be interesting on. But there is no use case. There is no really use case right now. I'm just searching for information.
So I guess, can you, like, that's a lot of useful context. Is, I guess, to summarize all of this, I guess, is your question, is OPA able to work in that kind of a use case where you might need to be able to do essentially like an ABAC or RBAC system at scale? Is that kind of the condensed down version of what you're asking? Or
I think if we were able to centralize all the definitions, it will be nice, because if we want to search something, we will go on the focal point and we will have the information. If not, if the Rigo files are dispatched on different place where the apps are, in fact, centralized on GitHub, for example, or GitLab, but the Rigo are linked to an OPA instance. So if there is a central point to get the information, it will be nice. If not, is there any way to make all the OPA running on the infrastructure to be able to be requests, or to give information on central point, in fact?
I can answer this one, Peter, or you can. Up to you.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So to clarify a little bit, Patrice, so with the current deployment model that OPA really supports, you've probably noticed it's meant to be deployed next to the thing that needs an authorization decision, right? And the model of the world that OPA at least was initially developed with is that every OPA instance needs to be given all of the context required to be able to make an authorization decision. What that currently looks like is the current supported way to get policy and data down to individual OPA instances is to provide it in the form of a bundle. I'll get to that in a moment. But basically what happens is all of your OPA instances download the same bundle, and it includes the same like list of users, the same list of permissions, and so on as JSON. And then every OPA instance has the same view of the world and can make local decisions based on the information that has been handed down from an authoritative source. So the centralization is, well, okay, where are these bundles of policy and data coming from, right?
Okay.
The simplest version of how that can work is the actual bundle format that OPA uses. It's literally just a tarball with a couple of folders and some files in it. And if you care about data integrity, you can also put signatures in there so that OPA can do integrity checks on all the files and make sure everything checks out. It's in the docs somewhere.
Yes. I see.
You're all good.
I saw
with
that
okay.
the bundle is just the input file on the data file, in fact.
Right. And so typically you'll have some authoritative point in your infrastructure that is building these bundles on a regular basis. And your OPA instances, you currently, unless you're using HTTP long polling, basically what you're going to have to do is set all of your OPA instances to poll the authoritative source, say once every 5 minutes or something, and they'll look and see, has a new bundle been created? If a new one has, they pull it down, they load everything into memory correctly, and you're good to go. That's more or less the current model of how things work for OPA. Styra's product, DAS, basically provides a high-performance bundle server, as well as a lot of the regulatory and decision logging features that most people want, the ability to dry run policies and kind of do a sort of ad hoc impact analysis on stuff. And also a large number of pre-built policy packs that make it easy to figure out, how do I get set up with this Kubernetes system or this Envoy system or whatever? And they have just pre-built stacks of policies. I think one of the things you mentioned there actually sounds vaguely like the entitlements policy bundle that was recently put together. So there's that's kind of the value add there, is like you have pre-built policy sets for the things you care about. You have the ability to get policies to all of your OPA instances and monitor them, you know, behind a single pane of glass. And that's kind of the sell there. You can run OPA without DAS. Many folks do. Some folks build their own control plane. Some folks build their own bundle servers. DAS just automates a lot of the hassle around building your own bundles and deploying them on a regular basis. Does that help at all?
Yes.
Okay.
But the problem is that if we centralize, we could have, for example, we have 4 applications, so we can have 4 bundles, all stores in the GitLab or in the GitHub. But if we want, yes.
Are these 4 separate applications that are like completely different kinds of applications, or is it 4 instances of the same thing?
No, 4 different applications.
Okay, yeah, 4 different bundles would be a good model.
On my point of view, if it's the same application, we use the same bundle.
Cool. Yep, that's exactly how we would want it deployed in the wild. Yep.
Yes, but if we want to search on those bundles, we have to make a Python script or something that will take a bundle one by one to describe the content of each bundle. Because always in my view of investigate on the permissions that a Lambda user have. You know, I want to know Patrice how permission Patrice have on every application that are available on the company. So I have to take all the bundles to check on those bundles if Patrice does have any permission on those bundles. This is the way. This is the only way I can do it. No.
So well, what you would do is you would have to bundle like the data files describing all the permissions and such. You would have to have a copy of that in each individual bundle, or you could prune it down to be, you know, just the permissions that are relevant for that specific application and bundle that in. But it's 4 separate policies, 4 separate sets of data potentially. You could, if you have like a master permissions list, you could, if you're just looking to ship this fast, just stick the same JSON data file in every single bundle. And then each OPA instance, when you set it up, will be configured to fetch just the bundle that's relevant to it. You don't have to fetch all 4. You don't have to have a fancy Python script. It does take a little more setup work on the front, but that tends to be what we've seen people do for deploying OPA. Does that?
It means
that answer your question?
Yeah, I'd like to add one more point there, right? Like, so you don't need to search the bundles specifically, because the bundle is just a representation of the current state of your policy and the data, right? So you don't need to look in the bundle, right? That is just a zipped file of your policies and your data. So if you can, if your policies and data are versioned, you should know exactly what bundle correlates to what policy and data set. So you should be able to see like, oh, right, this bundle is version, right, 3.6.9 of my policy set. So you can always just check what your policy looks like at that time for in whatever repository you're storing your policy data.
Yes, but the bundle is application centric. If we look at the bundle name will be related to the application, not a user. But if I want to have permission of a user, what this user can do on all my application?
That's a kind of entitlement style use case, and that would require a different setup. Is this literally just asking what can this user do across my entire organization, and I don't care about any specific OPA instance? Okay. If I were in your shoes, I would have an OPA instance that sits maybe somewhere in my infrastructure that would run a policy that answers just that question. So if I have, 4 separate data.json files that describe application specific auth stuff, what I would end up doing is deploying a policy that basically I would load in all 4 of those JSON files into my OPA instance. You could use a bundle, you could use the REST API, and I would load in a policy that then queries each of those different documents, rips out the parts that matter, and then unions them based on like the user ID or something. It wouldn't be the prettiest thing under the sun, but it would be relatively easy to generate programmatically if you needed to, or modify by hand. That's how I would do it, just at a glance. There's certainly other ways that you could do this, but that's like, for me, that would be the shortest distance to between 2 points to getting like a basic entitlements kind of thing up, where, you know, if you're an admin, you can ask the question of, oh, right, did we give rights to this person to access, you know, this database or something? I don't know, Peter, do you have any ideas there? Or does that sound kind of like what you were thinking as well?
Yeah, like entitlements is an interesting use case because, right, like you're expanding, your policy set is expansive across so many different things, and so yeah, like I don't know that there's a very simple way to solve for scan my entire policy set for where this user, like if you're setting it up as like a simple RBAC model, then yeah, like whatever role the person is assigned to is kind of easy to isolate. But if you have a more complex like attribute-based system, then walking that tree of decisions might get complicated. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure what the. Yeah, I'm not sure if there's an easy solution there. Yeah.
But it may be it is maybe if we cannot do it like this, we can maybe create an interface where the people, instead of building the Rego file by themselves, use an interface to build the Rego files, and with this interface we can manage, for example, database that will store all the information during the process of creating the Rego file. I have no use case yet. It's just a question that I ask myself, how, if it's easy or not. As I understand, it's not so easy to do. So there is probably, as you said, many ways to do it. Some maybe are nice, some maybe not. But it was just the question about this. The question of the logs are interesting too, because as you know, if there is something wrong somewhere, we are obliged to give all the logs on the session connection, the access role, and so on. So this part is also an important part of the project. But we will see probably in another set of questions. I don't want to monopolize the speech too long. But yes, you give me a nice answer. For this question.
I guess the last thing I'll note there, Patrice, before we switch over to Arun's question, is the thing you're talking about like a policy builder kind of interface. I have definitely seen people build like surprisingly simple ones. You could imagine, if you've used Python before, you can do very simple string templating there. And I have definitely seen people be able to build simple policies using essentially string templating, where you just slap in, you know, the conditionals within a rule, you know, or generating simple, uniquely named rules for things. So this is something that like the language makes fairly easy.
Yes.
And usually isn't too hard to get built. Like you can build it in a dumb and simple way, and it usually works out of box. If it doesn't, you know, feel free to hit up the help channel in the community. But yeah.
But I saw on the documents that they are talking about permission as code. This is what it is for, the permission as code. For me, as code is something that is made by a program. As ASCODE.
ASCODE.
As
No, this is not this is not something.
Okay.
Maybe it's a French term that it looks like an English term. So for me, as code is something that is built not by a human but by a process. For example, monitoring as code. There is no one that is looking for the terminal watching the error. The error is generated, trapped by a process, and the process corrects the error automatically. This is what I call the as code.
Okay, so for policy as code in the context of the Open Policy Agent, my understanding of that is you are writing code that automatically enforces policy.
Okay.
So you are the one providing the code in this case. There is a human in the loop. You could generate the policy code with another system that's entirely built out of code. This is something fairly common for people looking to translate, like if they have a table-driven rule set, it's not uncommon for someone to write a converter that'll then spit out a set of matching Rego rules or something. So, yeah.
Okay, nice.
Indeed. So those are good questions, but Arun's been waiting for a few minutes. So
okay, no problem. Yeah. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
So I see your question there, Arun. You put it in the chat. Looks like your group's doing a POC with OPA. And your question was, why are there no major release versions of OPA yet, despite it being a graduated CNCF project?
Yes. So actually, we are doing POC. Actually, the one question, like, first of all, thanks for setting up this office. This is really helpful. And the POC, in the POC, what we are doing is we are making a centralized policy management system and using OPA as a policy engine. I think this is a more common, most common use case for OPA. And one question I always got from leadership is like, why we don't have, we just have minor versions only. So there is still a dev churn over there. So
I think the answer to your question, the short version, is that this may have something to do with Golang's major versioning causing API issues. My understanding is it's one of two things. It's either Golang related versioning woes and or I guess the other side is that the language hasn't been frozen for 1.0 yet. We make an extensive effort to maintain backwards compatibility to the point where every new keyword we introduce has to be explicitly imported into policies. So we make a very strong effort to make sure that you can just, once you write your policy, it's usually forward portable for quite a few versions. For us, we have been basically treating our minor versions as the equivalent of what most projects would do for their major versions. As far as project maturity, people are using this in production now. We certainly consider it to be a fairly mature project. So I would say that the version number does not tell the full story. I don't know, Peter, do you have anything else to add?
No, I think that pretty much sums it up. Like at some point, there may be a point where we take all of our like imported feature keywords and create a version 1, but I don't know what that date would be. Right, like the tool set is pretty robust at this point, and so I like for the foreseeable future, I think we're going to continue with the versioning scheme that we have. Like there's no real push for us to reversion it as a 1.00.
Yeah.
Do we have any documentation stating this reasoning? I'm not able to find anything on GitHub or anywhere open source on the internet.
I'm pretty sure that that's correct, that this is an informal thing amongst the project's maintainers that just hasn't been documented explicitly yet. But if it would be helpful for you and for the POC you're doing, I I don't see any major reasons why we couldn't actually just put that in the documentation that the language isn't frozen yet. We don't have, and maybe if there's a technical reason, because I'm not 100% sure on the Golang thing, but I remember something like that coming up in the past few months back when I asked about it. So I'll ask around and internally and see, what was the reasoning behind not minting a 1.0 a while back. And we'll see if we can add that to the docs, because if you had that question, there's other people that had the same question.
Yeah, that's true. And one more thing, I see there is a roadmap for financial year 2022 on the GitHub. Wondering if we already released the roadmap for 2023, like we have any.
So there is no public 2023 roadmap just yet. It's mostly an issue of just all of the maintainers have been pretty busy, and none of us have gone into the backlog to set up the roadmap for 2023.
I see.
Yeah, it's something that it's literally a matter of just someone needs to sit down and mark things as, yep, this is for 2023. Because there are a number of things that we have earmarked for 2023, and it's just a matter of someone sitting down and organizing the public roadmap on GitHub to reflect that.
I see. Makes sense. And third thing, I just want to dub my thought on the POC, like just to take your opinion on this. So what we're planning to do is to make a centralized policy management system, not similar to Styra, not as feature rich as Styra does, but yeah, it's gonna be minimal for a minimal use case. Just want to see if this will work for us or not. And what we are planning to do is just dump all the policies as a bundle file in MySQL, and then create a discovery bundle file, which basically contain information about all the bundles that we are creating. And whenever user create a new bundle, we update the discovery bundle file. Hey, this new bundle is created. And on the centralized host, the discovery bundle is basically keep updating whenever there is a change in discovery bundle, and we just keep polling discovery bundle from there. And when new discovery bundle is there, it basically come to the host, get all the other bundles, because whenever discovery bundle show up, we create new config file of our restart over there. Like internally, it will not, we don't need to restart it. It internally take the new config file and get all the new bundles that are there in the storage, right? So we just basically want, from the user perspective, there is no change even we create a new bundle or user creating any new policy, and we just need to pull one file only, the discovery bundle only, from the OPA standpoint, just to see at least one time. Later on, it might download the files from other bundles, but at least seeing one time, we just looking at the discovery bundle file to update our configs. Do you think this has been done in past by other use cases, and this is a doable thing?
It sounds quite doable to me. I would suggest that, since this sounds like this is new territory for your group, probably see what the simplest version of this looks like. So I would say if you can simulate the discovery mechanism on your side, if that's like an unknown for you guys, I would start by simulating that. One issue you may run into is the polling frequency for updates. I don't think the discovery system really works like a push-based system. If I remember correctly, OPA is usually just polling. For better performance, you may want to look into HTTP long polling.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. I think for OPA overall, we do like OPA do polling even for the other bundles. But for the any bundles server we have, we do polling only, right? There is no push-based mechanism as of now that OPA support.
Are you familiar with HTTP long polling?
Yes.
Like the idea? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. That gets you fairly close to something that feels like a push-based system without actually being push-based.
I see.
So like the reason why it's done that way is just because HTTP is very much a polling oriented protocol. And that allows us to kind of skirt around the fact that we'd really like to have push-based stuff, but we're using HTTP. So, it just sits there, holds open the connection, and whenever it times out, it just fires another request and sits there and waits. one thing to be aware of if you're having a lot of OPA instances doing long polling is that will leave a lot of network connections just hanging open on whatever server they're trying to pull the bundles from. So, you know, if it's only 1 or 2 servers, not a problem. If it's 1,000 or, you know, 1,000,000, you may have some issues then, performance-wise.
So what is the mitigation? Like, how do we recover from that? Like in those scenarios? Like,
It's mostly a matter of you would run out of open ports if you had too many instances querying the same thing. But I mean, there are a lot of ports on the average server, so you would have to have a lot of instances hitting the same bundle server.
Got you. Got you.
Yeah. And that's only with HTTP long polling that's even an issue, because they're just leaving the connection open and waiting for the server to respond or not.
I see.
With the normal, just, you know, every, 5 minutes kind of polling mechanism where it shoots a quick request and waits for a response like that. Yeah, that's not going to exhaust all your ports.
I see.
Long polling kind of could, though.
I think for the initial use case, we will be starting with as a centralized service, not putting it like thousands of million, because just gonna start up like might be 5 to 10 OPA instances, central service, and then take it from there.
I'd say just try the default polling thing, and if you find that the latency is unacceptable, then switch to long polling, and that might work for your use case better.
Got you. Makes sense. And one another question. This is our last one. I don't want to hold up all the time. This is basically more toward, so we will be using data on demand kind mechanism where like user request reach to OPA, and then from the OPA we query another DB to just pull the data. And this is just for the read request only. We're gonna read data from other DBs because our DBs are pretty large. There is no way possible for us to copy everything locally on the OPA instances. So any concern around that if we using the HTTP send thing for the read request only? I know there is a caution of using it. Don't use it for the put request. Like don't update anything in that DB with OPA. But we are mainly using the read perspective only.
I would say that HTTP send is generally safe for querying things. I wouldn't trust it for modifying things, and if you do any kind of optimized bundle building, sometimes that can mess with when and how certain non-deterministic calls like that might work. So just be careful, double check things if you're doing optimized bundle builds. I guess one thing that you might consider is if you are, I guess, are you trying to modify databases from your OPA policies, or
just read data from there? The only use case is read data and compare data with the input, and then respond back to see.
Okay, so you're just querying like some kind of like simple REST API over the database that does the query.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that's probably going to be just fine for the most part. Yeah.
Makes sense. Yep. That's all from my side.
All right.
Thank you so much, Peter, for all I have.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks everyone for joining. Yeah, we will see you guys around the community. Talk to you later.
All right.
Thank you, Peter.
Take care.
Thank you, Phil. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye. Bye-bye. Thank you.